Hi, Andrew.
Hey Jane, how's it going?
Good. Hi, Helen. It's been a year. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm trying something new here. I have two screens. One is my Mac desktop, and then I've also using my Mac laptop that I've propped up at the same height. And so I'm going back and forth to see if I can do that and practice. I'd rather practice with my peers rather than with my teacher candidates. But the way that I teach, they all know that I'm crazy. And so it's okay. And they'll say, yeah, you almost got it. Yeah. Oh, hey, you got it. And then they'll go off and, just hand signals, which is fine with me. Regrettably, I got a bit of bad news. One of them was just diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma and cancer. So I just said, prayers up. And if you're so inclined, prayers up, good karma. I pray. She knows I pray to everybody and I bring everybody along with me. And so she is just phenomenal. I mean, she's just, whoa. And so I said, I will keep in touch with you. So I want to serve as her unofficial mentor this semester when she's, while she's, she's taking the time for herself. So I think it's going to be good for her. I mean, we didn't know anything about it. So anyway, enough about that. So Jane, what have you been up to?
This. The conference, supervising students, finishing out the year, new cohort is coming in. I could use a break.
Yeah. Where are you again?
UCLA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we are. We're changing the model a bit at San Jose State this year so that the supervisors don't have to do or aren't responsible for seminars preparation, but we do the clinical observation. I love the clinical observation, and at times, because I really want everything to go so well, I'll practice my seminars and over and over and over again, only to have a glitch and then have somebody go, what are you doing here? That kind of thing. So I'm glad that that's off my shoulders a little bit. But
interesting.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions. How do you pre-conference with them on their before
that's one
going
of the, yeah, that's one of the questions that we're going to be talking about. We have an upcoming session, and that's at the top of my list because we know that it's going to be on Fridays from 4 to 6 for everyone. And then the 143A or the first semester group will meet and they do an in-depth, some kind of, talking after it's like I have a big wad of cotton in my mouth right now, but if you imagine 4 to 5, someone will present the general overview. And then we come in the second hour and engage and talk with our folks and their problems of practice, and we discuss that. But I don't know what it's going to look like. Okay. I have a whole list of questions because it was just, we just found out about it a couple of days ago. But
interesting. So you still are in the seminar space, but you don't lead it. And so that's taken off your shoulders, but you're still there to engage with the students.
Yeah. So Vanessa will be my partner in crime.
Oh, nice.
Right?
Helen, this is Amy. I'm so fascinated by this because we're still doing our seminars in single subject.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting. Well, here's my email, and everybody can copy it down. Or if there's probably going to be some kind of list. But Amy, if you want to reach out to me and I'll be my thought partner in this. It's really hard. So are you ready? It's Helen.Smith
At
at
SJSU.
SJSU. Ta-da!
Yes.
That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Helen.
You're welcome.
It was so interesting because like I heard from Dina about some other things, but not about, like, I heard about the Cal TPA class and everything, you know?
Right.
Yeah, but not about like this kind of revamped seminar structure, which honestly sounds wonderful.
Yeah. At first I thought, well, what am I going to do? Because I had spent the majority of the summer, I said, I really am looking at this, the accessibility feature. So I moved everything over to Google Slides and then discovered that there's a wonderful extension called Grackle that will automatically measure the accessibility of all the slides and then show you how to cheat and make it the way it should be. So I was all excited about that. And then only to find out that we're going to be doing it in a different way, but we'll figure it out. So,
yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
So where are you, Amy?
I'm at San Jose State.
Oh, geez. Okay.
I'm just in single subject.
Okay. I just can't see your face, so I don't recognize.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't able to turn the camera on because of child issues.
That's all right. That's all right.
I'm sure some of us can relate to those challenges, and you know.
Yeah, my candidates wonder, they always ask me, do you have kids? And I go, oh no, they'd be arrested. Child abuse, no. Not for me. Nope. My husband and I decided a long time ago, didn't want them. Best kids are someone else's. And so all of you moms and dads and folks out there, yes, I applaud you. I applaud you.
Oh, thank you. So sweet of you, Helen. Here, I think it might be safe for a little while. So,
okay.
Here we go.
Now I see you. Now I recognize you. Okay, yeah.
Hi, Lorena. You should be a co-host now, so you should be able to share your screen, do it, whatever else you need to do. If you need breakout sessions or breakout rooms set up, just let me know, and I'll make sure to set those up.
Thanks so much. Can y'all hear me? Awesome.
Piece of cake.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for your patience. I was like, all of a sudden, Zoom was going real slow over here. Let me know if there's a lag. I'm trying to. I think the computer's going slow too. Maybe.
There is a little lag.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll turn my video off and I'll put this share screen on to just get going here.
Okay.
So thanks so much. I really appreciate everyone being here today. I've been kind of working out this idea with Land and Water.
Lorena, do you prefer if Andrew shared your screen instead?
Let's see.
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Better?
We can see
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Sorry, issues. Okay, let's see if I can do a presentation here from the slideshow. My computer was super mad at me today. Okay. I feel like I'm still super slow, or you all are. It's probably me. I'm terrible. Okay. Can you see this one on milkweeds?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just start with the lands and waters because that's how I have come to understand the work. So I'll start with a small story and then maybe we can talk more about what this means for supervision. I promise I have a point. So this is a picture of some milkweed in my backyard, and I'm fortunate to have a backyard. I recognize that sort of a luxury in LA in particular sometimes. And it's I first planted it with my daughter last year, and we were in this huge drought. We've been in a drought for many years, and we had heard that milkweed was really great for the monarch butterflies. And monarch butterflies are super helpful and important for lots of reasons around pollination. And she's 4, talking about kids. She's a new kid and spent a lot of time with me during the pandemic. So I've been trying to figure out what learning means for little ones. Anyway, the milkweed that we planted didn't take off. They were these little plants and they just didn't grow at all. And we watched them slowly die, and it was really sad. They just disappeared. And then this last fall and winter, something amazing happened, which was that we got a ton of rain here in LA. And about 2 months ago, I'm not kidding, all of a sudden we see what these little plants coming back to life, and we had thought they were gone for a year. We just started figuring out what else we were going to do with this dirt patch, and lo and behold, here they are, these beautiful flowering milkweed. And now we have monarch butterflies and other beautiful things in our backyard that have been eating and enjoying milkweed. Ugh. Now it's not advancing. There we go. I don't know if this is going to work. Can you do that? Took off. So what does this have to do with supervision? Oof. I think like the milkweed, I've been thinking about the many purposes and what we do and how we're connected to lots of other things in our work. At the beginning this morning, Mika talked about, and I think I was actually maybe the first person who introduced everybody, that we do this sort of bridge of reinforcing or thinking about teacher ed programs and practices. We are navigating school systems, we're building relationships. There's a lot that we do. One of the other pieces is supporting or bridging classroom practice. And sometimes that means, I know as a former, supervisor, and now sort of more in a professorial role, a lot of my time was spent like as a counselor or a therapist or just listening. Sometimes you're cutting paper or making copies and helping people in their classrooms. Sometimes you co-lead or take a small group and you're teaching. And sometimes it's really hard just to observe with both teaching and evaluation eyes. I started to think about this as a chessboard. My brother used to have this 3D Star Trek chessboard. Have you ever seen this? It works on multiple levels. And it's a really interesting game to play this way because you have to think of the moving pieces in multiple directions. And I started to think about teacher ed in this way, that you're thinking of multiple contexts of teachers in the classroom and students in the classroom and our programs and then our communities and our contexts. And so it's just, you have to keep it all and you have to hold it all. And so we're in this very interesting position. I'm going to jump right in and then I'll stop talking. One of the things I've been struggling with, what is pedagogy and what does that actually mean? We've been talking about culturally sustaining pedagogies for a bit in our program, in other social justice programs. This is from Alim and Paris's work. Recently, I've been working with the ethnic studies pathway, and so we have a sort of a other version of ethnic studies pedagogy that is similar and different. We've been working with Santiago Gonzalez's, oops, I have an extra R in there, piece around what is ethnic studies and this complexity of purpose and context, content, methods, and identities, and how this all is what we have to think about when we think about pedagogies. All of this is to this idea of lands and waters pedagogies. And like I said before, there's a group of us that have been working and thinking about what this means in teaching in schools and in teacher education in our program in particular. Trisambo Stewart is a Tangba Lucenio Gabrieleno and at UC San Diego. And there's a number of students from UCLA, graduate students, Asada, and Annie and Marie Mendoza. We were working with doctoral candidate Kelly Stewart, who now is a professor, and of course Darlene Lee at UCLA, who's really taken, you know, the ethnic studies pathway to great heights. And so very cool group of scholars. And so we kind of put together a bunch of readings. I can, you know, put this up on our shared docs later if you're interested in some of the frameworks or theories that we put together. But it's been years really now that we've been kind of putting together what this is. And we've been drawing from different frameworks and different theories. And so essentially, we came down to this like image of a basket and how we're weaving these different theories together to come up with lands and waters pedagogy. So I'll just get down to the big pieces, the big takeaways from a lot of Indigenous scholarship. There's the 5 R's around relationality, responsibility, reciprocity, relevancy, and respect in research. And we were like, well, what does that look like in teaching? Lands and waters is super important for nature culture relations. I'll talk more about non-human centered relationships. And then the idea of criticality, critical consciousness. I know you all know stuff about this. And then there's this idea of socio-ecological justice, which includes self-determination and sovereignty. And so one of the big differences, I think, with the work we're doing is that we're really intentional about beginning from the original caretakers of the land, waters, in which our schools and on which we reside. Okay, so I'm gonna give some examples. I know it's the end of the day and I'm having like technical issues, but hopefully you're with me. I see any thumbs up or any like, okay, we're with you, and then we'll get to the cool activity. Okay, cool. So there's this activity called the Land as First Teacher, which we adapted from Sandra Steyer's work. This piece is called Land as First Teacher, a philosophical journey. And so I thought maybe we could take some time to kind of get into what this feels like. Maybe you've done something like this before in other spaces. But just, I thought maybe a simple thing would be if you could just take some time right now. I know it's been a long day, if you've gone to all the sessions of, you know, being in front of the computer or lots of thinking. And so if you could bear with me, let's take some time. You can write with a pencil or a pen or on your computer, or just think it and turn your camera off, whatever you feel like doing. But let's just take some time to reflect on the natural world around us. So where are you sitting? You know, what's out? Are you by a window? Is there natural world around you, in the room you're in, outside the room? Are you outside? So just reflect on where you are now. And then there's this sort of big question I'd like you to kind of write about, think about. So how might lands and waters inform your pedagogy? Yours as a teacher educator, in your work as supervising, or how you take it wherever you're at. So what's an experience you've had in the natural world? What is something you have learned from that? And or please don't feel like you have to answer all these questions, whatever resonates with you. What could be a symbolic representation of how you envision land and water as your first teacher, our first teacher? What might that mean for courses or people you teach? So let's take some time. Let's do, right now I've got 2:06. Is it okay to go, let's say, I want to say even 2:15. I don't know if that's too much time. Is that okay? 2:15, and then we'll come back together. So I can do, you can turn your camera off, and I'll bring us back together at 2:15. Any questions? All right, cool. Okay. Mark it, set, go.
Does anyone know if this is 4B before I try to figure it out? Did you guys do A or B? Anyone?
This is 4A.
Oh, okay. I want to go back and do 4B. Thank you.
Do you need the link?
Please. Thank
Okay,
you.
give me one moment.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your thought
Sure thing.
and generosity.
I'm supposed to be into nature and things about interact.
Okay, as I would say in class, find a good spot to end your sentence. Sometimes we would say, just drop a period somewhere. It'll be okay. Hopefully, there was a really great side note. Thank you, Samika, for asking. There was a question around like, oh, struggling with like, what does that mean, symbolic representation? So that was the note for sort of, you could take it any way that you will, and I'm super curious to hear how you all have taken up the thinking. Can we do a little breakout and then share with some folks in your group? If you don't want to turn on camera, totally understand. And just, stay in the main room if you feel uncomfortable. And then we'll come back together. So let's just do like 5 minutes. Is maybe that okay? So we'll do, how many rooms is that? Can't see how many. Here we go. I'll try this, see if that works.
And I'm happy to hang out in the main room if you want to jump around.
Cool.
Just in case people show up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, whatever you.
So sorry about the technical issues. Did we
No.
lose people at the beginning? Couple.
And not any more than we've been losing in other sessions.
Okay.
So I don't. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I'll join in the big groups. I'll be back. Thanks
Okay.
so much. I'm gonna bring everybody back.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
So close all the rooms.
Sorry, it's Kristen. It looks like you jumped, you ended early, so had to jump off and it's just jumping back on.
Oh, great. No, no problem. It's always a test, I think, of like who comes back right away because they're like done in their breakout room, or, who's still like in good conversation and they wait, that 60 seconds that they have left to wrap things up.
Yeah, I will wait till everyone comes back, but thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. Be in community. And thanks, Andrew, for all the work you've done for helping out. I know this is a lot. Labor of
Oh,
love.
not at all. Thank you for running this workshop. We definitely appreciate it.
Thanks. So it's definitely close to my heart. So it's nice to be able to talk about it. Hey, everybody. Okay. Welcome back as people are coming back. I'm going to put a question in the chat for our group, kind of full group discussion, and just sort of open it up. Here. I hope you had good conversations. Hope that was a little nice break and community time together. And I wanted to hear more from our group for sure. But I wonder if we can turn to sort of building from that, and then thinking about what that could mean, sort of as a group. So feel free to unmute yourself or put things in the chat. And like I said, I know I kind of threw you in on this. Like with the students, we spend a little bit more time, reading the article and talking about lands and waters and what is a metaphor, and how do you give meaning to something, or what do things mean? And so I'm curious for you all, what were some of the things that popped up in your small groups? What do you think this could mean for teaching and learning in our schools and our work? I mean, there's these layers. It could be K through 12, schooling. It could be our teacher ed programs. It could be like community learning contexts. What are some sort of big ideas that we can learn from the natural world? It's a big question I have myself. It's a real question.
A few things that popped up for me were keywords like mindfulness, sensory integration. I think that it also allows us to build connections to the communities with our student teachers and the students that they're, working with, being able to then have something that could be stress reducing. So for instance, I think about water and like working with special ed students, encouraging teachers to learn strategies like, hey, something as easy as running their wrists under cold water can be very helpful. And then having my school, which recently they had some of the students build like a planter box, and that's something that filled it with like some nice local like plants, and then building some of like ownership in that and some self-esteem growth out of that, being able to know that they're the ones that are maintaining and keeping this thing alive. So I do see a lot of I see a very mental health based approach to this that is very mindfulness oriented and sensory integrated.
That's awesome. Yeah, I see some in Sumita's note on the side here too. There's something more than metaphors that's like sort of really just real science, like what's really happening with this plant or with the water, and what should we know about this that is super important to how we exist, besides relationality. And you're hitting on some of the big points from Leanne Simpson's work around Land as First Teacher, which is there's sort of these domains. There's like the metaphorical, like what do we learn as, from metaphor, like, oh, this palm tree is like my teaching and it's strong and it bends in the wind, or the science, right? Or the reality of like, what do we learn about survival from this, cell, or from this fungus, or from, And then there's these sort of other pieces around dreaming and reciprocity. So thanks for sharing. This is beautiful. I wonder if anybody else, I kind of named Sumita, but if anybody else feels like jumping in.
I'll jump in. In our small group, we talked a little about the fact that Jane was in our small group, and Amy, that Jane takes her student teachers outside to do the debrief whenever possible. Yeah. And I share that. I don't do it as much as I should, and certainly not in the heat, but we do go outside when it is possible, sit at one of the lunch tables or anywhere we can find a spot to do our debrief. And it really does change the tenor of things, and everybody kind of breathes a little more deeply and relaxes.
Yeah, I've really been, rethinking this too. We have a lot of schools in LA that are full of concrete, and it increases the heat. You might have seen some of the news around how there's a big push to dig up the concrete, because kids like myself grew up just trying to find some sort of sliver of shade. And this is what we put our kids in every effing day. Sorry, somebody else had unmuted. I'll stop.
I actually muted accidentally, but I will talk anyway. So honestly, Lorena, this question gave me a jolt of existential crisis, because I'm just thinking about like my role as a teacher and all of our roles as teachers, and how our students are in classrooms with 4 walls, and they're learning from standards, and they're taxed with accountability and curriculum and artificial constructs of what it means to be learners, right? And so as first, people would never learn in this way. They are out and about, they're out in nature, and we are not doing anything like that, and we're not even promoting that within our K-12 education system. And so like the best that we can do is to incorporate like environmental justice issues and talk about how we can affect change in the world, but we're not really in the world. So I'm having a crisis at this moment.
This would be like, I feel like since I started teaching, I'm with you. The crisis. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
Yeah. Can I add, just to piggyback on what Evelyn was saying? It's funny because like in science, we, everything is supposed to be like phenomenon based. So we talk about, why do leaves change color? That's such a great phenomenon, right? And there's all these other phenomena, like what causes it, why did my wig get blown off? Because of wind. Wind is such a neat phenomenon. But something that I noticed, as I was realizing as you were talking, Evelyn, was that so many times, like when we talk about these things that are so natural and around us, like sometimes we don't have access to these things too. Like we don't get out, right? Or that it's just not available for us, right? But instead we try to do what we can. We'll show a video or something, right? Or we, try to bring some objects that we've collected into the classroom. But there's something so incredible about just going outside to feel the wind. And I don't like, I feel for the teachers who are like, I don't know how I can manage all of this, and think of all, like it's so tiring and there's so much, and how nice that would be for everybody too at the same time.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Amy. Yeah, Jane, you should go.
I think Kristen unmuted first.
Oh,
sorry.
Thanks, Jane. I just wanted to provide a ray of sunshine, because those things are so valid of what you're saying. And I think sometimes we need to go outside as teachers to be more inspiring for our students and catch our breaths. But we have a program at Cal Poly where I work that is run by an instructor, and the curriculum is for teachers, and it's science-based, and all of it is with the idea that you're teaching it outside with the resources that Mother Nature has provided for us, the gifts of our surrounding. So you're not having to bring in any, like you're talking about, we don't have that the the materials. No, actually, we do have the materials. They're all outside. We just need to go out and look at them, such as the wind, and talk about that. So there are programs, and it's being taught to provisional teachers and people going into the field. So there is hope. Evelyn, don't give up. Don't feel so much despair.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I remember, and Karen, I'm looking at you. I remember you from our school days. In places like the Pacific Northwest, there's all these like forest schools, and all this stuff popped up during the pandemic where people were like, "Oh, let's do outdoor schooling," and I was like, "Oh, we could do that." But since back in the when I was in Seattle for a while, I was like, oh, this is so nice to be out in this place. And in LA, like we just have such heat sometimes where it's just brutal. But that's part of the learning, and that's part of the reasons why we need to just be outside, because that is mostly where people are, and that is what we need to be figuring out how to be. The hotter it gets. I'll say, just to your point, so there are ways of reimagining, and I don't want to just put it in forest schools or like, oh, we don't have forests near us, we're in an urban city, and there's a lot of work done by my colleagues here, Megan Bang. We've got a new group of faculty coming in who are really trying to help us think about urban ways of thinking about living with the natural world in urban spaces. And part of it is we're doing a lot of things wrong in urban spaces. Like we really need to be stopping everything that we're doing and being like, what is the better way of doing this? So Jane, I know you had a hand up earlier, sorry.
No, Lorena, you actually touched on a conversation you and I had a couple of years ago about forest schools. That's what I was going to bring up, and that, no, we can't bring the forest in. But what I have noticed with field supervision is that so often the rules are different when we take kids outside. Teachers are okay with their students talking loudly outside. That maybe wouldn't happen in a classroom space. Students tend to cluster and collaborate and put their heads together when they're working outside. That doesn't really often happen in the classroom space, where we're trying to encourage them to collaborate, but they're not really doing that. So I find that whenever we take kids outside, and I mostly work with high school. When I do field supervision, it's high school math science teachers. It's amazing how it changes the way those high school kids interact with science or math, just because they're outside versus inside. And I think that shows also that the rules we have for inside spaces might not be the best way for our students to thrive.
Yeah. So for me, there's two big collisions that happen at least where I'm at in my position, which is I teach social foundations courses. So there's all this social justice, theories and society, and my colleague Ananda, who really is the one who introduced me to Lands and Waters, works in learning theories, child development or whatever you want to call it, learning theories. But she's got all these really cool ways that she and I and our whole group have been talking about how these are so connected. The ways that we've structured schooling are so contrary to learning. And so then I get back to this chessboard, because what does it mean for our teachers? Like, we don't want to scare them, right? At the same time, from what I've seen, they also feel really great to, as you're all pointing out, to be outside, to think of new ways of, and it helps them honestly to think of new ways to structure learning experiences for young people that they had not thought about. Like, it just opens up this imaginative space to completely be somewhere else. And more than that, to be in better relationship as a society. So to me, like, this all connects to, like, as a society, we need to be doing completely different things. So yeah, I feel like, yeah, so go for it, Samita.
And this maybe will take us too far off track, but I hope it doesn't. I'm really struck by this thing of, like, when we take the students outside, they interact in different ways. And then Lorena, you said we need to help our student teachers imagine different ways of teaching. And those of you that are in math ed probably have been looking at the Building Thinking Classrooms book, and how what that book does is what that research does is it
puts students into different situations to break their idea of what school is supposed to look like. And then once we break their idea of what school is supposed to look like, they shift from students who are doing the verb of studenting to people who are learning. But what I'm struck also by right here in terms of our work with student teachers is I think that a whole bunch of teachers do teachering. And when we take them outside, then we break their idea of what it is that they're supposed to be doing with their students. Like, who was it that said, oh, we take them outside and it's okay if the students talk louder. We take them outside and it's okay if the students cluster in these different ways, right? In a way that it wouldn't be okay inside the classroom walls. So that was what I was thinking.
There are so many cool tools out there. One of the ones my partner was telling me about, there's this like app you can put on your phone that you can point at a plant and it'll tell you what the plant is. I see a lot of nodding heads. There's all sorts of cool other ways, again, of like sort of using all of our tools or all of the things. Thank you. There you go. Same thing with animals. So there's the science part, which is that a lot of students, myself included, are still learning because we've been so separated from the natural world in our urban settings. I always tell the students a story of how, I grew up in the LA area, and I promise you, it wasn't until I was an adult, really until I started seeing my partner, that's very outdoorsy, that I came back from a trip and I was like, oh, we have Big Sur in California. What is that? And we came back and I looked up and I was like, oh, we're surrounded by mountains? I didn't know that. It didn't dawn on me that we're surrounded by these huge mountains. And so in some ways, it's also really healing and sad that a lot of us in these urban areas are just not able to sort of grow up in other ways. And I think folks in other, sort of more rural and suburban even areas are. And so part of that to me also comes back to social justice. Is this me kind of like wrapping up some takeaways? And I thought maybe everybody could like think of a last word or takeaway, because I know we're supposed to, we end at what time? 2:50, right? Yeah. Let me put, there's a last thought, let me know and stop me. But I wanted to put a slide up just to kind of also make sure that I get to one part, which is a big piece of the work that we've been doing. So you all are giving some great examples. I look back at my time of teaching and I wish that I had known this when I was a K-12 teacher. I would have breathed a big sigh of relief when I was trying to teach transcendentalism, to know that, oh, you can think about Taoism, you can think about Quakers and Buddhism, or just, who are the traditional caretakers of this land and how are they understanding the plants, the animals, the water, the ways that we should be in right relationship. In STEM and history, y'all were naming some like activities. Ananda has a really good one where you pick plant relatives. And so you pick a plant and it becomes like a relative. You need to get to know them. Like, who are they? What do they like? What do they do? Simple activities, learning about the water cycle for my students. I know this feels like a curricular piece, and our roles in supervision sometimes don't give us time to introduce new content. But I know in each of your areas, you're all experts in your content. And so I can hear you're imagining and thinking of, lots of different ways. But for us, just doing a lesson on the water cycle outside, at UCLA, I realized a lot of our students didn't really understand sort of how water, ends up in the water table. And again, that's because a lot of us who grew up here, we just didn't have this education. We just didn't. And so it was news to me that there's water below the ground and that it's putting water in the aqueduct that is problematic because it doesn't get to all these other plants. Which gets to the piece that you all are bringing up, which is social justice. It also is an issue of history and justice, knowing why our water is the way it is. It's not just a drought, it is people who have created these problems. I'm going to just say some takeaways from me, and then maybe we can each do sort of a share out of what's popping for you. One big thing I need to say is it's not just place-based education, not environmental education. It's not just social emotional healing, although all of that is part of these ideas that I think are coming from Indigenous scholars working in different fields that we've sort of been putting together. It's community engaged. It's not just that. It's not just climate change. It's not just Dewey and hands-on learning. It's not just Frary and critical consciousness. It's not co-opting Indigenous ways of being and knowing. What we do want to think about is how to bridge our coursework. So I know this is not the work of supervisors alone, but in teacher ed, we need to really be connecting our courses much better with learning theories and making that real. Like this is really what it could look like, and that's hard. We're far from it. The last one on here is to really begin from the original caretakers of the lands and waters. And so the big piece that we've been working with is to help teachers understand what it is to be on Tongva land, to have our schools on Tongva land, to know that the waters flowing here beneath us that have been, you know, imprisoned, if you will, that there is a way that they should be, and that there are people here who have been fighting and continue to fight for the natural world, even in our urban spaces. Jane knows this. We have a Tongva site that's right near a school here, the Currawonga Springs. It's a sacred site, and we need our teachers to know where that is and what the waters are there, why the springs are sacred. And so that's part of our job too, I think. And again, as supervisors, what that means for me is that we just help in the short term, help our student teachers, new teachers, begin to be in right relationship with the world. And I will promise you, of all the politics of what we're in our schools and the society, like it's a little bit of a sigh of relief to be like, oh, but my focus really should be, or like what's really important is to be in a better relationship with the natural world more than humans. To start from learning from lands and waters has been a big one for me too. Like whatever I'm teaching, to begin and end with lands and waters. It's been a real challenge, and it's a lot. It's so helpful. To begin from lands and waters was thinking about social justice, and to really rethink, as you all are pointing out, long term, how do we think time and how do we rethink space when we think about how to reduce. And I think we can do that in our own teaching and our own supervision work. So I'll stop there, and I'll do one of the things I like to do with my students is give everybody a last, word or two or a couple. So just with our last couple of minutes, what are some things, it's a short time we had together, that you're going to think about, some ideas, some takeaways? What are you leaving this space with today? So a word or a couple words, and you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. And we'll just see who, I don't want to do popcorn, but whoever feels moved.
Encouraging my student teachers to have more lessons that are outdoors, outside the classroom. And one thing I mentioned during my small group was an interdisciplinary approach. So being able to actually take science, take math, take English, and put it outside. And, what is the color, what is the size, and what is the meaning of this flower?
One of the challenges we're all facing is the student-teacher well-being. They're really feeling it. And if maybe to have a discussion with them to find out if there's any way they could spend more time outside, or suggest it to their peers that they meet up somewhere and go for a walk or something between the time they end one class and begin another, on campus or wherever it is they're meeting. Because they just forget, and they're so tired, or they're so, focus that they don't think that they should do anything for themselves. And I'm like, no, a 10-minute walk, something to break the stress so that you can go on to the next thing, your night classes or whatever it is you need to do. That's really valuable.
I think about the fact that we share so much of our DNA with the plants around us. And plants need sunlight to thrive. And so do our student teachers and their students. So Laura, I was gonna say the same thing, that how is it possible that people thrive without that sunlight, with that air? And how can we encourage that and center that in the things we do with our students and encourage them to do the same thing?
Yeah, the slides will definitely be available. Yeah. This the journaling activity is definitely, to your question, Kristen, an activity that I use with my students to start off, because sometimes it's a little thing, and sometimes people need like little steps to get to the bigger ideas. But just doing a sit spot nature journaling activity, there's a couple of really cool nature journal activities online. But to again always begin with Tongva land as the stewards of this land, is to not make it just about like the environment. Sorry, I meant to have this as a last round, like everybody do a last word. Can we do any more? I should just leave it for last words. Sorry. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thanks for the notes on the side. I appreciate the sort of notes around the questions and the ongoing learning. And so, yeah, to all of us, it's beautiful being in community with you. Short term, and I know it always makes me feel better to know that in the long term, if we're all doing this, then things change. We're all moving in some kind of different direction that'll change. Thanks you all. Have a good afternoon. Thanks so much for hosting and putting this on. Should I think there's the slides to upload.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we should have shared a folder with you to upload any resources, and if you don't mind just posting your slides there, that'd be great.
Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you. You as well.